Hey, everybody. I am really stoked to have my guest, Christopher Carter, with us today. I have no doubt that he's going to pull a rabbit out of his hat with some great insights for us on his journey as a speaker and the work that he does with his clients. Christopher, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Dean. I am really excited to be part of this.
So you are, I would say, a little bit unconventional when it comes to the world of maybe speaking and keynote speaking and some of that world.
Yeah.
You have an amazing thing that you bring to the world. Tell us a little bit about your business and about your audience and the work that you do.
You bet. Well, in the world of speaking, I occupy really three niches. Number one, I do a lot of MC work. Number two, I really do after dinner entertainment with a light motivational spin. So when it comes to that, if you were to imagine a dial of entertainment on this side and hard-hitting content on that side, I'm able to move up and down that dial quite a bit. But mostly when I do an after-dinner program, it's about 70% purely entertaining with a light about 30% content. And then I also do keynote work as part of a general session, and that really skews much more toward the hard content. I draw on my background as a communication skills person because I worked on a PhD in theater, and my background really is in training presentation skills. So I bring those into the program. But I toggle back and forth between these three niches because they're really symbiotic in the way that they work together. So when you were asking, who is your audience? I don't have an industry niche, but I do have a kind of a meeting niche. And I fit in with those meetings that are trying to either get it started off with an entertaining bang that is provocative and will relate to the overall theme, but is not necessarily an insider or expert speaker niche. And then, of course, I end the same way. So if they might need to finish with this same kind of thematic recap, that's where I come in. And then I will go in, I will do my mind reading material, because that's my entertainment work. I'm a professional mentalist. And then I will weave in sometimes very, I want to say, technically oriented communication tools. I teach body language. I teach listening skills, and other times more of a general motivational message.
Okay, I have to stop you there for a moment. There's a few people right now that are thinking to themselves, what is a mentalist? Could you elaborate for us for a moment?
Absolutely. So a mentalist is a performer, an entertainer who kind of mixes the skills of a psychologist with the skills of a magician to make it look like they can read people's minds. So most of what I do is an equal mix of body language or nonverbal communication skills, profiling, and the kind of strategies that you would see a magician or illusionist do. But in process, it looks like I can step out into the audience and pluck every little thought out of the audience's mind.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I know you can't reveal your secrets, and your secrets are safe.
No, you're right.
But I want to look at, if I'm a meeting planner, if I'm organizing this, if I'm putting together a meeting, I've got the pressure from the executive team and from the board, and there's all these mandates that we have, and it's really easy to put together a really content, that heavy, high credibility, heavy content meeting. Tell us about, if I'm a meeting organizer, what's important to consider when it comes to some of that other things that you bring to the table. Why is it valuable to have some of that entertainment or that lighter stuff woven into our structure of meetings?
It's valuable because the attitude or mood of your attendees really shapes the way that they're going to process the rest of the meeting. So when we start the meeting off with a lot of laughter, fun, and amazement, and then teach some valuable communication skills, some listening tools, some body language tools that will help them connect better with their customers, their clients, their colleagues. But when you get that blend, they go into the meeting primed for listening carefully, for interacting with the other meeting attendees. And Now, let's flip to the end of a meeting. When you want them to go away with a kind of a thematic recap, what has this all been about, but also a sense of elevated energy, that's great because what they will remember from the event are high points. And the biggest thing that they will remember is how they felt about the event as a whole. And that's where I come in because we send them out that door energized, excited, and with just an incredible positive attitude about what they've just experienced.
Now, you might not experience it because you're there, but I'm imagining, and I've seen a lot of events put together where they end up well-intentioned, but they end on a flat note.
Exactly.
Kind of leave with a whimper. And so if I'm an organizer and maybe I had that experience last year or at a previous event, what could I be thinking about to make sure that I don't have people leaving with a whimper?
Well, the number one thing you can think about is the kind of participation and the kind of energy that a presenter like me will bring to it. And, this kind of entertainer speaker niche, our benefits are largely meeting benefits. I'm not going to necessarily change or transform the corporate culture, although I can contribute to that. But I will, I'm that rim shot on the end of the meeting. And so, humor, amazement, astonishment, but tied into the message, it creates just a memorable experience.
Let's shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about your journey. And so there might be people watching this, listening to this right now that are maybe embarking on their own journey of some sort of stage time, some shift maybe from employee to self-employed, some way that they are serving corporate clients or meetings as a speaker or as a trainer. What are some of the lessons that you have gathered in your journey? You've had a variety of experiences that have contributed to what you've created today. What kind of advice or tips do you have for people that are on that journey?
Yeah, well, in order to give that kind of advice, I probably should give just a real thumbnail of that journey. So I started out as a kid magician, and everybody said you'll never make it as an entertainer, so you should get a real job. For me, a real job was thinking that I would end up teaching theater. So I went to the University of Michigan. I worked on a PhD in theater, and my primary interest was theatrical movement, nonverbal communication, the way actors express themselves on stage. And I began to realize as I got into that would be a great hook for an act that I could do on stage, and that I actually had no real interest in being a professor. So I quit. I moved to Chicago. I became a professional illusionist. I did my mentalism show literally all over the world, but mostly on college campuses. Over the course of my college campus career, I presented at over 3,500 college campuses. So I've been all over the country many, many, many times over. About 15 years into that journey, I began to notice the students who were coming up in the system, they didn't have the same nonverbal communication or interpersonal skills that I took for granted. And so I started to ask advisors about this, and they said, yeah, the soft skills that they're bringing to the table are radically different. And I created a program called Student Body Language, and it hit. It was so popular, and I ended up transitioning from being mostly entertainer to primarily doing that program. And then about 10 years ago, I thought to myself, I can spin this off into the corporate arena. And I created a program called the Credibility Advantage, using body language to sell your product, your service, and yourself. And I thought that was going to be it. I thought maybe I should try to establish myself as an expert speaker in this particular topic. But what I found was that I was using existing contacts to promote myself, and they wanted me to do this mix of pure show with message and content. And so that's really what I've done ever since. So the lesson that I've learned from this is to keep your eyes and ears open for those opportunities as they come, and to chase down those opportunities that connect with your real core of experience, because you can't hide that. That has to be authentic. My background in theater is real. My background as an illusionist is real. I'm not going to come in and pretend I'm a psychologist. I'm not going to come in and pretend that I'm a management guru. I'm not. I have been a solopreneur my entire life. But presentation skills and tying those into an overall meeting theme, that's something that I can actually do and do effectively. So listen for the need and then look within and find what your own skills are that you can use to satisfy those needs.
Well, and certainly it's easy for us to overlook those things that maybe we're good at, or maybe the things that we've learned, we tend to discount that. And so that's really more significant advice, I think, for people to take than it might seem like, because there is nobody, and quite literally, there is nobody like Chris Carter. Right?
That is true.
Nobody's had the same journey that you've
exactly.
had. You know,
or
you start putting these pieces together. You know, a young magician and the theater studies and all of that corporate work and all the university. I mean, you put all those pieces together, it gives you something that nobody else has that you can uniquely bring in service of the needs of your audience.
Yes, and I think absolutely. And I think so often in speaking, people are trying to hide from their biography. People are inflating credentials. And this happens a great deal, or manufacturing expertise that doesn't really exist. I don't believe that's a good approach. I think embracing your biography, whatever it might be, because whoever you are, you have this range of knowledge and skills that can apply. You just have to look within and figure out what it is.
Can we call it LinkedIn-flation?
Yes, we can call it LinkedIn-flation. That's a great term.
Everybody is a legend when you look through their LinkedIn profile, right? They've got it all. That's amazing. So what, when you think about your journey, what are some of the inflection points that, as you look back, was it people? Was it experiences? What seemed to have made the big difference that you could share with others that they should be on the lookout for or seeking as well?
The inflection points were decisions to head in new directions. And those decisions came out of a kind of a combination of occasionally discontent. I wasn't satisfied with where I was. It had become dull and needing to express myself and expand myself. And they also came out of a certain level of pragmatism. There were times when I was performing on college campuses when I realized that I was getting older and they were staying the same age. And eventually I would age out. So asking myself the question, what can I do to adapt to this new circumstance? So that led to a choice. And the choice was to add this new program, Student Body Language. And then again, moving from there, thinking, well, I'm traveling a lot. I'm not particularly satisfied with the kind of travel that I'm doing. I would rather do bigger money gigs for fewer trips out than just grind it out night. So well, who has that kind of money? Oh, those would be the corporate people. And so the inflection point there, the choice to start to phase out slowly, and I'm still involved in the college campus market, but not as much as I was by a long shot, but to slowly phase that out and start to work in on this new element. I think dissatisfaction is something to listen to. We're not meant to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. If we need to grow, we need to listen to that dissatisfaction and also take those risks.
Yeah. And so two things there that I heard: the dissatisfaction, listen to it. Just because I'm getting paid doing something doesn't mean I should keep doing it. So listen to my own dissatisfaction, but then also you mentioned the joy factor, right? And
yes, absolutely.
We're going to keep doing something and we're going to keep being creative. There has to be an element of joy. Speaking, training, coaching, all of these are creative endeavors.
Absolutely.
And it's very difficult to be creative and to bring that. You have to bring the light to your audience. And if you're bored, your audience is probably going to get bored too.
Oh, absolutely. And this is true for anybody who's on the platform. I'm sure it's true for people who work in more of a coaching and training environment as well. Obviously, there is no job that you can have that it won't at some point feel like a job. But that shouldn't be most of the time. That should be some of the time. And there's also going to be any number of things that we don't like to do as well as other things. So we'll just start with the assumption that that's the reality. That's the experience we're all going to have. To follow that joy is, I think, the primary reason that most of us have followed this solopreneur or small entrepreneur path. I think almost all of us in the world of speaking and corporate entertainment and MC work could have gotten jobs elsewhere, and many of us did. But that's not what we wanted. We wanted to experience that joy of, you know, being our own boss, of getting out there and expressing ourselves creatively. And I think that it's a hard enough road that if you don't have that desire or drive to find that kind of joy, it's probably not for you.
Yep. Listen to that little voice, right? And that's, give yourself permission to listen to it and pursue that. It takes courage.
Absolutely.
This has been fascinating, Christopher. If somebody wants to learn more about your MC work, your mentalism work, and all of the messages that you share with your customers, your clients, your audience, what's the best way to be in contact with you?
Well, the best way is to visit my website, which is christophercarter.com. And there you'll see all the video and all the content. And then I'm super easy to reach through that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story and joining me today, Christopher.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.